Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell goes viral for all the wrong reasons, and it might cost him the election. But before we get to any of that, my friends, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
I am so tired of the gaslighting of this country by the Democrats. They keep doing this shtick where they go to Portland and they go to a place nowhere near where the Antifa violence is, and they pick a place where there's no homeless on the one specific block they have found and say, look how nice it is. The most recent one to do this is Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times. This video is him going into some kind of fundraiser benefit in what looks like a nice venue, and it starts with him hiding behind a tree. This is just cringeworthy.
Be careful. Portland is on fire. Our president says so. You can hear the artillery booming, the rival gangs fighting, the clouds of tear gas all around us. Be careful. But actually, this isn't a war zone, whatever Trump says. This is perfectly peaceful. So, during the ceasefire, I'm going to attend an Oregon Historical Society dinner.
Hey, Nicholas, are you outside the ICE facility right now? Have you been outside the ICE facility? I love that this is the guy from the New York Times. You know why? I went up and looked up their writing on the autonomous zone, their coverage of the deadly 2020 autonomous zone. Ready for this? New York Times, this is the first article they wrote on it. Free food, free speech, and free of police inside Seattle's autonomous zone. Then they attack Trump. President Trump challenged Seattle's mayor to take back your city after the police vacated a station house and protesters laid claim to the neighborhood around it. 6 people were shot. 2 people were killed, all black teenagers. Rapes, robberies, and murders went up 250%. There's been $20 million in lawsuit settlement. And yet, they describe the autonomous zone as free food, free speech, and free of police inside Seattle's autonomous zone. They're doing the same thing to Portland. Now, can we be real about Portland for a second? Portland has become a magnet for everybody on the right and the left. Katie Daviscourt, one other person, our friend, the honey badger mom, who we had on the show a few weeks ago, they've been there for the last 3 months. Everybody else showed up this week. Be it on the right or the left, everybody showed up this week. Whatever it was the last 3 months during the entire summer since June, that is not what it is today. The National Guard wasn't there 3 months ago. All the reporters weren't there 3 months ago. And the Seattle Times is part of this gaslighting as well. The Seattle Times is absolute garbage. Now, I'm not even entirely sure they actually sent somebody down there, or they're just picking up the narrative. I'm reading from their article because they finally printed something yesterday. For an area claimed by Trump to be under siege by terrorists, South Portland at nightfall has been conspicuously quaint in recent days. So are you admitting it works sending in the National Guard? Or are you just not anywhere near what's actually happening? Because I'm seeing the videos of the chaos. About 3 blocks north of Portland's ICE facility, customers lounged outside a brew pub and sipped their last dregs of beer shortly before 9 p.m. Thursday. Time out. Do you know when all the violence starts? 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. And also, aren't you guys the ones saying, well, it's just 1 block, it's just 1 block. So this is a couple blocks away? Across the street, a couple strolled their dog through the amber glow, spilling from a wine bar. There, the loudest sound was the wind rustling leaves of trees lining each sidewalk, their trunks bright with strands of twinkling lights. Given the relative calm, Trump's National Guard announcement, made through a post on Truth Social in late September, caught many Portlanders by surprise. For some, however, it was only the latest jab in nearly a decade-long feud between the president and their famously weird city, known for its leafy neighborhoods, indie stories, artisanal donuts, and a penchant for protesting. Wow. Talk about not covering the story at all. You're trying to make it seem like it doesn't happen. You know how you guys covered the autonomous zone? Because I went and looked that up also. You guys did almost the same thing the New York Times did. You guys talk about planting in Cal Anderson Park. Dozens of people with rakes and wheelbarrows spread topsoil and chicken manure in newly planted gardens. The ones on top of AstroTurf. That wouldn't grow anything. Others gathered in small groups to discuss plans for no-till farming and fundraising for medical supplies. Yeah, that's how you describe the autonomous zone, where 6 people were shot, 2 people were killed. Rapes and robberies and murders went up 250% and $20 million worth of lawsuits. I took the light rail this weekend. Why is this relevant? You will see in a minute. I took the light rail this weekend. Here on the show, we are not big fans of the light rail or Sound Transit. And I was wondering what stories I was going to have from the light rail. The last time I took the light rail was during the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. I literally saw people doing stolen merch deals on the light rail. I saw the homeless people doing what they do on the light rail. Well, it was the middle of the day. It was a Sunday. I was going down to an event in Pioneer Square, and I didn't want to pay $120 for parking when you have the Mariners and the Seahawks and the Sounders and everything else going on. So I said, you know what? I'll take the light rail. I'll be in and out, no problem. Surprisingly convenient. However, there was one homeless guy on the light rail. It wasn't the biggest deal in the world. It wasn't at all. You know what? That happens in major cities. It does. It was relatively clean for mass transit system. It was fine. Didn't really have any problems. So I start looking around and I realize, well, there's other issues here. For example, there's no advertising on there that wasn't paid for by Sound Transit or somebody in Seattle government. So you'd rather rip us off. There was not a single fare enforcer in sight on a very busy weekend. So I didn't have to pay for that thing at all. I did, by the way. My wife said to me, Ari, not good if you go on there and get caught. You're wearing a yarmulke on your head and you've got your KVI sweatshirt. People are going to say things. So I paid my $6 for a round trip thing. Plus, also, now that I'm not paying for my car tabs, it'd be really bad of me to claim, oh, I paid for this thing already, but I didn't actually. So then I walked to Pioneer Square. Holy cow, 3rd Avenue. Holy cow. You know what? In Seward Park, if I was to make a video, I could go, there's no homeless problem here. Look how beautiful it is. Look how pretty it is. Oh, look, there's the mayor's house. There's no homeless crisis. That's because I wasn't on 3rd Avenue. Holy cow. Mike, I have never seen it so bad in my life. The buses coming and going. All the stores are closed up along major sections of that street. The homeless are everywhere. Wow. Just wow. But if I wanted to, I could claim everything's perfectly fine in Seattle. There's no issue at all. Everything's perfectly fine. And that's what the media is doing. That's exactly what the media is doing. In fact, CNN isn't even sending anybody down there. What's CNN doing? Oh, what did that police chief say, that there's no crime? Let's just quote him. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt hit back at CNN's Caitlin Collins on Monday over questions about President Trump's authority to deploy the National Guard troops to Portland, calling a recent federal court ruling blocking the move untethered from reality and law. In fact, what did she actually say? Let's go to the tape.
I would encourage you as a reporter to go on the ground and to take a look at it for yourself, because there's been many members of the press, not press in this room, but independent journalists, some of whom we'll be inviting to the White House very soon to share their stories, because they have been in the middle of these riots and they have witnessed the anarchy that is taking place night after night. It's on video. You should play it on your show. You have a great opportunity on prime time on CNN to show your audience. Yeah, but you're probably talking to partisan Democrat officials who are opposed to everything this president does. You should also ask the people who live in Portland. We've actually heard from many members of the community who have said that this is complete civil disobedience. It's a mess. It's been loud. It's been troubling for neighbors in the community who are just trying to live peacefully. And these people are not there to peacefully protest. They are there to cause mayhem and havoc.
We've all seen it. It is the same gaslighting from 2020 all over again. And I'm tired of it. I'm really tired of it. Look, if I wanted to, I could have gone on the light rail this weekend and come back with stories from Mike. Mike knows. Mike knows what I do. I will walk in here after the weekend and go, holy cow, you won't believe what happened. I had no stories to tell. Third Avenue being a disaster zone. That's what Third Avenue looks like, and that's what downtown Portland looks like. The last time I was there, I could not believe how much the place had been destroyed by homelessness and drug use. I could not believe how many stores were boarded up. It makes our downtown look like nothing. It makes our downtown look vibrant and bustling. Doesn't change what Third Avenue looks like. And these reporters constantly claiming nothing's going on. It's journalistic malpractice is what it is. I watched the live streams on Saturday night of what's going on there. I watched it last night of what's going on there. It is beyond crazy that they continue to gaslight the country and say, oh, it's mostly peaceful. I love that they're even using the word rioting now. They use the word rioting and then claim it's peaceful. So now it's rioting but mostly peaceful as opposed to fiery but mostly peaceful. Tell me how peaceful this is, by the way. According to the Daily Wire, the FBI arrested 2 individuals on Saturday after they allegedly rammed their vehicles into a Border Patrol vehicle in Chicago, triggering a shooting. Marimar Martinez, 31, and Anthony Ian Santos, 21, were charged Sunday after federal authorities said they struck and boxed in a Border Patrol vehicle to prevent it from escaping. Both were charged with forcibly assaulting, impeding, and interfering with a federal law enforcement officer. The incident occurred on Saturday morning as 3 Border Patrol agents driving a silver Chevy Tahoe were acting as mobile security detail for an immigration enforcement operation near southwest Chicago. While working the operation, a convoy of civilian vehicles started following them, according to the criminal complaint. Those vehicles ran red lights, blew by stop signs, broke traffic laws to follow the Border Patrol vehicle. The complaint added that Martinez could be heard referring to those in the Border Patrol vehicle as, I don't know if I can say this on air because it might be a Spanish slur, so I'm just going to move past that. But it's a derogatory slang for immigration enforcement officers. The convoy of civilian vehicles followed the Border Patrol agents closely, pursued them aggressively, culminating in Martinez in the Martinez vehicle, I'm reading from the complaint, and Ruiz in the Ruiz vehicle driving into and striking the Border Patrol vehicle on both the driver and passenger side, respectively, leading to a temporary loss of control of the Border Patrol vehicle. In addition, once the Border Patrol vehicle had stopped, and the agents had exited the vehicle, Martinez drove his vehicle into the vehicle again. After being struck and boxed in by the vehicles, one of the Border Patrol agents exited the Tahoe, fired 5 shots at the car driven by Martinez. The 2 vehicles then fled the scene. Martinez was arrested at a repair shop, taken to a hospital to be treated for gunshot wounds, while Ruiz was arrested at a gas station. Doesn't this sound like the movie SWAT to you? You know when they're trying to get the drug lord out of town and they ambush the motorcade, but, you know, the drug dealer wasn't in the motorcade. He was actually being smuggled underneath because they had a plan A and a plan B. This sounds like something out of a movie. They ambushed the Border Patrol. This is beyond nuts. And then you have J.B. Pritzker come out on TV and claim everything's fine in Chicago? Really? Explain to me all the gang violence if everything's fine in Chicago. Explain to me the dozens of shootings every weekend if everything's fine in Chicago. Explain to me why 50 people were shot over Memorial Day weekend if everything's, or was that Labor Day weekend? That was Labor Day weekend. If everything's fine in Chicago. Everything's not fine in Chicago. Having a lawless city is a choice. Having a drug-infested, crime-ridden city is a choice, and that has been made very, very, very clear by what's going on in these blue cities, even refusing help. They think they have more to gain in the polls by being the resistance. Now, they're trying to make it seem like we're all living in Captain America, the Winter Soldier. What happens in the Winter Soldier is that the world is so worried about aliens coming down from the sky and terrorists everywhere and super metahumans that SHIELD, which is the big agency run by Nick Fury, that's Samuel L. Jackson with the patch over his eye, is going to send up a whole bunch of flying aircraft carriers to assassinate tens of thousands of people so they can stop any threat before it starts. That's what the Democrats are trying to convince you Donald Trump is doing. If they have flying aircraft carriers, that's really cool. I want to see some flying aircraft carriers. I want to see some helicarriers up in the sky. I want to see that. But at the same time, that's not what's happening. You have cities that have said, we're not going to enforce the law. And there's many reasons why. Do you want the most basic reason why they won't enforce the law? There's more money in not enforcing the law. So, first of all, if you don't have a lot of people in jail, you could save money on that. You could use it for other things. Money is fungible. 2, if you don't have to pay as many police officers, money is fungible. 3, if you're on the left, you're going to make your radical base happy by not enforcing the law because they are happy to paint this narrative like the New York Times, like CNN, that everything's hunky-dory in these cities. If you have drug addicts running rampant, then guess what? You get a whole bunch of money for that. And when you don't have the public safety and when you have the drug addicts and when you have the homelessness, you can say, we need to raise taxes to solve all of this. We need to do it, or things are only going to get worse, and yet things keep getting worse, like in Portland, like in Seattle. And we'll discuss exactly how you can tell this is what Portland and Seattle are doing in our next segment when we talk about Bruce Harrell's viral gaffes. But do you realize how much money there is for these local officials in not enforcing the law, in allowing their cities to become drug-ridden dens of crazy? It's profitable for them. And when people are scared enough, they will vote to take their own freedoms away. So if you want the Captain America comparison, you can just look at Seattle. But it's not the Republicans who are doing it, it's the Democrats. What is President Trump saying? If you guys aren't going to stop a federal building from having nightly assaults, we're going to do it for you. I wish he had done it sooner, but it's a big country and there's only so many places you can be at one time. And then when they come in to enforce the law, don't you do that. You're being awful. Look at Washington, D.C. If you guys want to prove me wrong that enforcing the law doesn't stop crime, then you could have used Washington, D.C. as an example. But you can't because there hasn't been a murder there since the National Guard came in. The streets are a lot cleaner. The city's a lot cleaner. I can't wait to go back. Beforehand, I was shocked what it looked like the last time I was there. I was appalled. This is our nation's capital, and when foreign dignitaries are coming here, when tourists are coming here, they're seeing this squalor. I am seeing the video now, and it is amazing. It's really amazing. When you actually enforce the law, things get good. President Trump summed it up great in the Oval Office today.
We have a new thing now when you look at, it's called crime. It's called absolute, as Biden would say, well, I won't say what he would have said. Remember when he said, it's a 3-letter word, no. Remember that one? Everybody saying, what was that all about? He probably meant exclamation point or something after the word. But this is a 5-letter word, crime, C-R-I-M-E. And we want to put it out and are putting it out, and they don't. They don't seem to care about it, but they do care. I believe that Pritzker and this mayor of Chicago that like to say about they don't have it under control. Not only is it not under control, it's the opposite. And I believe they're afraid. They're scared for their lives. I believe that the Portland people are scared. You look at what's happened with Portland over the years. It's a burning hellhole. And then you have a judge that lost her way, that tries to pretend that, like, there's no problem. Actually, she's not even saying that.
So here's the thing, guys. You have this judge who says you can't send in the National Guard, and this is going to go all the way up to the Supreme Court all over again. What are the residents actually saying?
You need a montage. Even Rocky had a montage.
There is not an emergency in the city of Chicago.
In Chicago over the weekend, at least 54 people were shot. This is just over Labor Day weekend.
We do not want troops on the ground in the city of Chicago. Neither do the people of Chicago or the people of the state.
They're going to hold their cards to their chest and say, we don't need you in Chicago. Well, I'm here to say, we do need you in Chicago.
No one wants them to come, that crime is down.
The governor as well as the mayor should be on board with it just so we can get a bit more of security in Chicago.
So all the residents are claiming they want the security of Chicago, or I should say the ones being interviewed are claiming they want security. The very people of color that Pritzker says he's defending are saying they want security. You know what the Democrats are most terrified about? They're most terrified about the feds coming to town, showing that enforcing the law and stopping crime works. And then people saying, you know what? It's not so bad with this orange-haired man, with this yellow-haired man with the orange skin. It's not so bad. And then all their little grifts dry up. It is crazy to me that the Democrats are literally saying we would prefer violence, we would prefer our citizens be unsafe, we would prefer people be on drugs, we would prefer crime be rampant in the streets, than we want any help at all. I don't think they need the help. I think they are refusing to do what needs to be done to clean up their cities specifically for financial gain, specifically because they know people will keep voting for taxes, because they know people will keep voting for them because they can promise they're going to be the ones who are going to solve it. And as we've been saying for years now, guess what happens when you enforce the law? Cities become safer. The New York Times, CNN, all these lefty outlets should be ashamed of themselves because they are gaslighting America by saying what you are seeing with your own two eyes isn't happening. Pay no attention to what's happening here. Where were they the last 3 months? They didn't care till the National Guard came to town. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, Bruce Harrell illustrates the point by saying he doesn't want to put anybody in jail. Now those comments have gone viral and may cost him the election. I'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Bruce Harrell is likely going to lose the upcoming election. And beforehand, when people would ask me, Ari, do you think he's going to win or do you think Katie Wilson's going to win? I would say I think he's going to win, but it's going to be bloody, meaning he's going to be politically weak afterwards. Politically bloody. With each passing day, I am more convinced he's going to lose because he keeps alienating the moderates who would vote for him, so much so that most people are saying, what's the difference between these guys? There is no difference between them. Bruce Harrell is trying to be Katie Wilson. And as long as he continues trying to be somebody on the left, you just go, the people on the left say, I want a real lefty. I don't want Bruce Harrell. Guy took too many hits to the head when he was playing football. On the heels of his viral comment about not enforcing the law, you know what he did in the Seattle Times King 5 debate over the weekend? He admitted that he is making the homeless problem worse.
Now, make no mistake about this. When I said 70% of the people in Seattle who are unhoused are not coming from the city. They're coming from elsewhere. I've been working on these issues. My wife, too, is former CEO of United Way in Health and Human Services space. We've been working on this issue a long time.
Well, then you and your wife suck at it. If 70% of the people who are homeless here in Seattle, according to the numbers you just said, are not from Seattle, you are attracting them. Come to Seattle. We'll give you a free phone. We'll give you whatever drug paraphernalia you want. We'll give you an apartment. We'll let you do whatever you want with no consequences. You are funding it. They're not homeless shelters. They are taxpayer-funded drug encampments and drug shelters. When Bruce Harrell first entered public office as a Seattle City Council member in 2008, there were roughly 8,400 people experiencing homelessness in King County. Now, Seattle's the biggest city in King County, but this is King County. By the time he left the council in 2020, that number had jumped 39% to 11,800. As mayor, the trend continued. He started in 2022. The official point-in-time count found 13,368 people experiencing homelessness. By 2024, that number has jumped to 16,868. That's a 26% increase. In total, Seattle's homeless population has doubled since Bruce Harrell took office. Now, let's go back in time for a minute. In February, we had a report from our friends at the Discovery Institute. We had a report that 50% of the people coming in were from out of the city. That was the same number Jenny Durkin had claimed when she was on her way out of being mayor of Seattle. Now, what I find fascinating is Bruce Harrell probably has the real statistics they're not admitting publicly, which is probably what the Discovery Institute was using. If we go by their real statistics and we always say the point-in-time count is an undercount, Bruce Harrell probably has more accurate numbers based on how many people are on the streets, how many people they're actually treating, all the numbers we don't have access to. And he decided to pull out the big guns for a debate with Katie Wilson, saying, who do you want to solve this? Somebody who's been working on it for 20 years or you who comes along? Well, a normal person would say, you've been working on this since 2008 and you suck at it. It's only gotten worse. Let's try the socialist and see what ideas she has. Whoever is running Bruce Harrell's campaign needs to be fired. Needs to be fired. Because right now, people don't see a difference. They go, I'll vote for the Meteor. Where's the Meteor? I want to vote for the Meteor for Seattle. Let it burn. I did a poll yesterday, completely unscientific. Twitter poll on my X account. And the Twitter poll showed something fascinating. I asked, are you voting for Bruce Harrell? Are you voting for Katie Wilson? Or do you not care? You're not voting for either one of them. 84% said they're not voting for either one of them. 84%. Now, mind you, I assume most of the people on my X account don't actually live in Seattle. But at the same time, it shows a bigger issue. Normally during these polls, Mike knows what happens. Normally during these polls, the conservatives go, I'm going to pick the more conservative candidate. I'm just going to pick him, even if I don't live in Seattle. And the lefties go, I'm going to pick the more lefty, even if I don't live in Seattle. Most people here are picking We're not voting for either of these people. We don't care about either of these people. Bruce Harrell's comments going viral over the weekend about not wanting to enforce crime. Oh, it's bad. It's super bad. If you missed that gem on Friday, here it is.
Mayor Harrell, I'm going to go back to that repeat offender question. If somebody has offended 6, 7, 8 times, even if it's a minor offense, but they continue to fail to turn their life around, at what point do you balance public safety to giving this person, some accountability? What is that balance?
So let me make something very clear. I was the one that sponsored the ban the box legislation when everyone opposed it because the criminal system has had a disparate impact on black and brown communities. Let me lead with that. So when this person is committing 6 or 7 crimes, I don't know his or her story. Maybe they were abused as a child. Maybe they're hungry. So my remedy is to find their life story to see how we could help first. I have no desire to put them in jail.
Yeah, that's completely obvious. It's completely obvious because you're not putting the people in jail.
Well, let's underscore how internationally or nationally viral this clip went. Like, I think I reposted it from just about everybody I saw that has any kind of high profile. I mean, Ted Cruz reposted that of all people. Goodness. But the thing that I put out on my Twitter account is to underscore that, like, friends, this is the moderate candidate.
Mm-hmm. You're 100% right, Mike. And that's why people go, we don't see a difference between these two. And that's why I think Bruce Harrell's going to lose. Whereas beforehand, I thought he might win. Speaking of losers, looks like a Democrat candidate for Attorney General is about to be forced to drop out of the race. When we come back, my friends, he said some interestingly violent things about Republicans. We'll have his crazy comments for you when we come back, plus a whole lot more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. I think it's very clear that the left owns party of violence at this point. I think it's very hard to claim otherwise. If you want to say the right had it before, even the Atlantic and lefty surveys that have come out since the assassination of Charlie Kirk are showing that all the violence is trending on the left side, while it's eclipsing any violence there was on the right. Over the weekend, Democrat Jay Jones, who's the 2025 Democrat nominee for Virginia's Attorney General, is now trying to walk back some pretty bad comments he made when he wished death upon a Republican colleague and their children. He wants to be the top cop in Virginia who enforces the law, but he was literally talking about assassinating them. It was revealed this week by National Review that Jones is a man who revels in politically motivated violence. In 2022, he sent texts to a colleague in which he joked about shooting former Virginia House Speaker Todd Gilbert. Jones' comments came in the wake of the death of former state legislator Joe Johnson, Jr., who Gilbert publicly honored Johnson's legacy. And Jones shared with the GOP House delegate Carrie Coyner his derision for Johnson and his wish for Gilbert to be shot to death. Hang on. Let's recap this for a second. So Gilbert gave a nice tribute to a Democrat colleague. You following me on this? Said to a Democrat colleague, said nice things about them when they died. This guy, Jones, was mad he spoke nicely about a Democrat and then wished for him to be shot to death. These are the texts that Jones sent to Coyner. If those guys die before me, I will go to their funerals and do something to their graves that I can't say on air. Send them out awash in something. 3 people, 2 bullets, he said. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Spoiler. Put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. That's what he's saying. Coyner said, Jay, please stop. Jones did not. Coyner said she was bothered that he was talking about hurting people or wishing death on them, which makes you think, did he accidentally send this out to the wrong people? Because that's kind of what it seems like. James called Coyner, and in that call, per source to National Review, Jones said the only way public policy changes is when policymakers feel pain themselves like the pain the parents feel when they watch their children die from gun violence. He asked her to provide counterexamples to disprove his claim. Quote, then at one point, the source said he suggested he wished Gilbert's wife could watch her own children die in her arms so that Gilbert might reconsider his political views, prompting Coyner to hang up the phone in disgust. Then Jones went back to texting her. She pointed out that he was talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die. And he said, yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes. This was the day after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. The conversation was about banning guns, I believe. He gave a comment to a local NBC affiliate blaming President Trump. But I want to make sure I got this right. He's blaming President Trump for this. The left has lost their minds. It's fascinating to see how somebody talks when they think they're off record. So now he's trying to walk this back, says, I'm so deeply sorry for what I said. And I wish that it hadn't happened, and I would take it back if I could. Oh, really? It ain't working out so well for you. This is a guy who wants to be the top cop in Virginia. And this is the guy who's talking about going around and shooting people. He wants to be the attorney general in Virginia. I sometimes wonder what's in the texts that I get back that are redacted, the emails that I get back redacted from Ferguson's office or Nick Brown's office, or when Inslee was in office, his office. I really wonder about that stuff. I just got back a whole nother public disclosure request from OSPI. Redacted. And it was all personal emails they were having with other people, claiming, well, they're personal with other people. You email the government, I get to see it. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. The left now owns this party of violence stuff, and they're going to keep blaming it on Republicans, saying, nope, it's Republicans, always the Republicans. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Bennett the protester, who apparently is still down in Portland. Bennett, what do you do for a job that you can hang out in Portland this many days?
Oh, it's complicated, but I wanted to tell you, oh man, I totally spoke it into existence. Last time I called you, I was making those joke war zone noises in the background, and that night it actually happened. Now I just actually started using the flashbangs and like the pepper ball, blast balls, repeater guns, like pretty much just like the stuff that I was actually doing my mouth when I called, and it's actually going on.
So, Bennett, it sounds like you're agreeing of what's going on around there. And regardless of what it was for the last 3 or 4 months, whatever's happening now is not what was happening the last 3 or 4 months. It's escalated because you're down there and every independent journalist is down there and the National Guard is now down there. So it seems like anybody who's covering this and saying that stuff isn't going on is actually specifically trying to avoid saying that.
Oh, I'm not claiming that they're not doing it. I'm saying it's all being instigated by ICE. This particular instance, actually, and I've got video. It's been on my Twitter, Ben and Hazelton. Everybody can see exactly what happened. They use a line of DHS agents.
Bennett, I'm going to ask you this question again. I'm going to ask you this question again, Bennett. Are you live streaming the entire time?
I'm recording the time. I'm not live streaming.
Okay. Are you cutting the things you think are relevant?
I mean, I'm adding all this time leading up to the things that happen, if that's what you're asking.
I understand, but you're taking... How long are your videos? How long are your videos?
If in the case of like the man and the woman being hit in the face with pepper spray by the DHS,
you keep coming back to this one example. You keep coming back to this one example. What I am telling you is that with regard to something like the autonomous zone or what's happening in Portland, unless there is a live stream covering the whole area of what's going on, you are seeing a snapshot. And it's no different than anybody else in the media who's seeing the snapshot of what they want to see. To claim the riots isn't happening, to claim there isn't crime on the streets, to claim there isn't a homeless problem, to claim there aren't drugs, to claim none of this is happening is insane. Whether or not ICE is now instigating it after 3 months of being attacked, we can have that conversation, but you weren't there 3 months ago when this started. You haven't been there the last 3 months, no different than the New York Times. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, the New York Times clearly is not the paper of record anymore, and one of their former editors just made a blockbuster deal that could change the landscape of journalism. We'll have all details for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Do you guys know who Barry Weiss is? Barry Weiss used to be one of the editors over at the New York Times. She quit/resigned/ they were going to fire her anyway. Why? Because she was tired of the way they covered anti-Semitism in Israel. And she said, I had enough of you guys not being true to the facts. I'm out of here. She wrote a scathing resignation letter. Scathing. She detailed the bullying by her colleagues, not just for the anti-Semitic stuff, but by the fact that she wasn't liberal enough for them. Barry Weiss came to speak in Seattle, 7-8 years ago. I was at a fundraising dinner. I was there when Barry Weiss spoke. I kept thinking to myself during the speech, man, what a great speech, but she is suffering from the worst case of Trump derangement syndrome I have ever seen. Because she would make a great point and then say, Donald Trump's the devil. And I said, if she stopped doing that, this would be productive because she can articulate Democrat points well in some cases where I go, yeah, you know what, that's not a bad point. But she quit the New York Times in 2020 after detailing bullying by her colleagues and then went on to launch the Common Sense newsletter in 2021 before rebranding it as the Free Press and expanding it into a full-fledged media company in 2022. Paramount has now purchased her company for $150 million. And then they made her head of CBS News. So now the mainstream media is saying we want to be more like the independent journalists, which means you want to cover things fairly. You know what I love about the Free Press? They have both sides. It's well written. It's well articulated. They do a great job. We have used material from the Free Press before. Everybody I know reads the Free Press, left, right, and center. Anytime I'm talking politics, they're talking about something in the Free Press. Because even if you don't agree with it, it is a well-articulated, well-written article. And you go, that's a good point. Now they've put her in charge of CBS News, and the CBS News reporters, journalists are losing their minds. So a lefty lesbian gets put in charge of CBS News, and you guys are mad? Let me just make sure I got that right. A lefty lesbian, and you're upset about it because she's not left enough for you. By the way, she hasn't been red-pilled. She's just seen the insanity on her own side. So she's more of your classic liberal and has dumped some of that Trump derangement syndrome she had before. Anytime I see an interview with her, brilliant. Even if I disagree with it, brilliant, well articulated, like the argument. And it helps me refine my arguments by going, here's how somebody on the left says it, and then I can respond from the right. Is the mainstream media going to follow this example and realize that maybe by embracing both sides and not being ideologically driven, that maybe you might win back some consumers? Paramount sure seems to be. Why do you think they dumped Stephen Colbert? Nobody was watching. Why do you think they bought the Free Press? Tons of people were. And now put this in context of her, Barry Weiss, and her former colleague from the New York Times, who still works at the New York Times, Nicholas Kristof, making cringy videos about how the violence in Portland isn't actually happening. That's why Nicholas Kristof is Nicholas Kristof, and Barry Weiss just sold her company for $150 million and became head of CBS News. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Jake in Seattle. Jake, only got a minute, buddy. Make it quick.
Ari, appreciate it, man. I'm curious where you get your information from regarding those protests in Portland. I'm also curious, for years the right have said that the Second Amendment is to defend against tyranny, and I'm curious how you define tyranny and how mass federal agents in places where cities and states have asked them not to be detaining people based on their race is not tyranny. Thank you.
No problem. I appreciate the comments, and I wish I had more time to do this. Let's sum up the not tyranny first. Oh, Jake, you left. If you want the answer, stick around, Jake. And then we can have a bit of back and forth. I would have kept you over to the next segment. But if you're trying to do a got you moment, nobody has proven to me they are rounding anybody up by race. I challenge you to do otherwise, because I've seen just as many white people arrested who are here committing crimes as I have seen people of other origins. To continue to claim it is just based on race just ain't true. I also didn't hear you say anything about the masked protesters in the streets who are chanting for terrorist organizations. You seem to have only a problem with the ICE agents wearing masks when they're being attacked by the left and doxxed by the left. Wish we had more time to discuss that. Free to call back. When we come back, more of your calls, more of your texts as well, but also somebody broke in to the Washington State Capitol and vandalized the place, lit flags on fire. Who was the suspect? We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, a vandal breaks into the Washington Capitol, causing thousands of dollars in damage. What was the motivation? But before we get to any of that, looks like Jake continued to listen afterwards, and I said, give us a call back, and he did. So, back on the Warrior studio line is Jake from Seattle. Jake, let's start from the beginning for people who weren't listening before. You had a whole bunch of stuff you threw at me a second ago. Pick one, and let's go with that.
Sorry to rush you.
Yeah, no problem. You followed my direction, so you get to come back on air because I said I was short on time. So, give me the thing you're most passionate about.
Well, yeah, I'm really concerned about the assault on American civil liberties. Like we talked about before the break, you mentioned you hadn't heard of any instances where folks were being detained solely based on their race. And I'm sorry, but the Supreme Court issued a decision off of its shadow docket that allowed federal agents to continue detaining folks solely based on their race. So, all right, how is that even defensible? I don't understand. What's the other side on this?
Well, I'll start with this one, okay? I don't know everything. I haven't seen that decision. Feel free to send it over to me, and I will read it, okay?
Happily.
I will happily take a look at that. I most certainly will. So you send that on over to me. I'll check it out. I may not get back to you today because I got a Jewish holiday tonight, but I'll get back to you as soon as I get a chance to read it. Fair?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm surprised you haven't heard of that. That's months old.
Send that one over to me because I can't see everything, man. I'm like two guys here. We got me and Mike. That's it. Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just me, man. I just watch crazy left news like PBS NewsHour.
Okay.
And that's how I get my information, man. I don't know what bubble you're in, but yeah, this is pretty obvious. And
I appreciate you saying that, but hang on a second. I'll let you finish.
That I'm telling the truth.
I'm not saying you're not telling me the truth. I want to know what I'm talking about. You know what? There's a difference between the two. That's not me accusing you of being wrong. That's me saying I'd like to read the court decision because sometimes when you read a court decision, there's a sentence before or a sentence after that clarify things. So what am I saying here? I'm giving you completely anecdotal arguments, okay? And here's my completely anecdotal argument. Not all Jews look like me. In fact, the vast majority of Jews don't look like me. A lot of the Jews in Seattle.
Which kind of Jew are you talking about?
I'm Ashkenazic. The Sephardic ones usually don't look like me. The Israelis usually don't look like me. Right, exactly. Not a single one of them. Not a single one of them has told me they are afraid of being rounded up. Okay? This argument that it's about race-based, if it was only race-based, I wouldn't be seeing all the white drug dealers or all the white human traffickers or the other crimes they've committed on social media being rounded up. I think you're trying to make the point that it's exclusively happening to black or brown people, and I don't grant your premise.
No. I never said anything about Hispanic folks or black people. I said that they're detaining people based on their race. Whether that's because they look Albanian,
now you have a different problem. Now we have a different problem. And this is something that actually I think is of the Democrats' own making. What happened was
the
they
Democratic
said
Party, you mean?
The Democratic Party, yes. The Democratic Party, you're right. Not the Democrats who vote for the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party itself.
Right.
So
we're all Democratic Party members. The Democrat Party was something pushed by McCarthy.
Fair point.
Don't call it the Democratic Party. Call it the Democrat. And
fair point.
So every time you do that,
I'll give you that point. I will grant you that premise. So what happens is when ICE is not allowed to pick up criminals who are being detained by local law enforcement or under arrest by local law enforcement, they have to go into communities. When they're going into communities, they also have to detain other people who are in those communities.
Right, I'm going to push back on this.
Wait, not done yet.
Quick.
Not done yet. You can push back on me for a second.
Apologies.
We have seen this happen time and time again, that when they go into the workplaces or when they go into the communities, first of all, you have a suspicion that they are harboring these people knowingly. And you have to confirm who they are not. And you're going to find more people who are in this country illegally when that happens every single time. So I would make the argument that because of these sanctuary policies, more people are getting caught in the net than if they weren't going door to door, house to house, business to find these people. Go ahead.
So if somebody commits a crime in this country, do you think that they should be held responsible and face punishment in this country?
I feel like I'm being set up, but do you feel that way?
Well, you okay.
Do you feel that way?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so then you said it was authoritarian to enforce federal law.
No, sir, I did not. I said it was authoritarian for there to be masked federal officials.
Does the mask make it authoritarian? If so, what about the people who support Hamas who are wearing masks out on the streets?
Yeah, well, shit, man. Those aren't
Whoa. Can't cuss on
apologize.
air. Sorry, Jake. Got to dump you when you do that. Appreciate the call. Appreciate the conversation, but you can't do that because then we got to dump you. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Beth in Seattle. Beth, what's going on?
Yeah, I think a lot of the people that are questioning the federal actions in Portland forget one important point. It is against the law to blockade a business or an organization, any kind of facility. It's also against the law to block public streets. And if a protest was doing that for a couple hours, it's still against the law, and maybe the police would let it go. But when they've done it for 90 days, that it takes 20 officers in riot gear to clear the street every time a car goes in or out of a facility, and the police don't do anything about that. Yes, if it's a federal facility, the federal government should come in. And Bennett and others who are saying that they're being too mean should explain why they have the right to blockade any facility. If it's an apartment building, it's also against the law, and you shouldn't do it. You should be arrested.
I agree with you, Beth, and here's something else. They seem to care about accessibility for the handicapped and whatever until it's a situation like this, right? They really care about streets and sidewalks and pedestrians until it's Antifa shutting it down. But there's something else here. I've mentioned this before, the public duty doctrine, which we have here in Seattle, and other cities have various versions of the public duty doctrine. And what that is basically said you can't be held accountable if you're an elected official for doing policies. Otherwise, they'd be being sued for everything they do. I wonder, however, if it's something on the books and you fail to enforce it, I wonder if that supersedes the public duty doctrine. So I'd be fascinated with that one. And now I have to consult some legal experts because though I am not a lawyer, every member of my family is except for me. Yeah.
Well, there's a lawsuit against Portland for that from people who live just across the street from that facility who've endured serious noise complaints very late into the night for day and day on end in a way that just is wreaking havoc with their sleep and their ability to live in their apartments.
Yeah, exactly. It's beyond crazy. And they should be suing the city. And my bet is they actually settle because they don't want to go to disclosure. When they go to disclosure, full disclosure, they get everything, including all the emails. And my guess is the city doesn't actually want to give those up because we're going to find out even more. Beth, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, switching gears for a minute here, this morning, somebody broke into the Washington State Capitol in Olympia. Yeah, broke into the place, vandalized the place, and let a few things on fire. Now, when I heard about this, my initial reaction was homeless, mentally deranged, or Hamasnik. After all, tomorrow's the anniversary of October 7th. Maybe it had something to do with that. When you hear burning flags, I think it was something like that. They're mad because they think Washington's funding who knows what. I was thinking that. But my first thought was homeless, mental health issue, something like that. Because they keep the Capitol relatively clean. I reached out to Jonathan Cho. I called Jonathan Cho. And I said, hey, buddy, there any homeless encampments near the Washington State Capitol? And he said, no, they're miles and miles away, which is a whole nother thing. So they keep them really clear from the Washington State Capitol campus, but not from your house. Okay. So I was kind of wondering what was going on. Because what happened was this morning, we got a statement from Lieutenant Governor Denny Heck. And Lieutenant Governor Denny Heck wrote this. On Sunday evening after 10 p.m., an individual broke a window and entered the state capitol building. He proceeded in a fairly short period of time to damage several items in the building. He tipped over both iconic busts on the third floor. One of those is George Washington, by the way. All flags by the fire pots on the east side of the rotunda were thrown over, and one was burned. He broke a glass door to enter the state reception room, where he also set fire to several objects, including the original rug, which is a priceless treasure. The State Patrol quickly apprehended the suspect as he was exiting the building following his rapid-fire damage spree. I commend the State Patrol for their swift and professional response. He has been booked into Thurston County Jail and charged with first-degree burglary, first-degree arson, and first-degree malicious mischief. Then he adds this. Over the last several years, there has been significant escalation of both violence-tinged political rhetoric, and actual violence. We can continue to adapt security measures, and we will, designed to prevent and deter such incidents. The fact remains, however, that we must all do our part in turning down the temperature. Violent rhetoric, property destruction, violence against individuals are a cancer on our democratic society. Okay. Decent statement, but I have two questions from this decent statement. One, why is Denny Heck writing this and not Bob Ferguson? Shouldn't Bob Ferguson, the governor, be writing this and not the lieutenant governor?
Turd Ferguson.
Exactly. Where is Turd Ferguson? Oh, right. He's still on his 2-3 week vacation that he decided to take. Where is he today? Nobody's really sure. Nobody really knows where he is. By the way, if it's a health issue, he should say it's a health issue. Remember what happened with Ron DeSantis' wife? Remember with Ron DeSantis' wife when everybody said, "Where's Ron DeSantis? Where is he?" And then you find out the wife has cancer and everybody felt really bad about that. I hope it's not a health issue. But he said it was a vacation. So kind of wondering where he is. And also, when the state capitol gets broken into, can you expect a tweet or something? You think wherever he is, they're not telling him what's going on? Of course they are. So why is Denny Heck doing this again? If he's the governor, he's the official governor in charge, then you know what? I expect a statement from Denny Heck. But at the same time, then Bob Ferguson shouldn't be signing executive orders because he's not the governor in charge. Hours after we found out about this vandalism, finally Bob Ferguson tweets, "Last night, an intruder broke into the legislative building, damaged several facilities and historical artifacts. There was significant damage, blah, blah, blah. We have the most beautiful Capitol in the country. I'm grateful for the quick work of our Department of Enterprise Services," those are the cops on campus, "and Washington State Patrol to bring this individual safely into custody." I would expect a little bit more. It seems like this was written in a hurry just to get something out there because everybody had the same question I did. Why is Denny Heck doing this and not the governor? Now, the story itself about what happened last night is crazy. Now, before I tell you who the suspect was, listen to it. Suspect parked a car on a flower bed in the flag circle in front of the legislative building at 10:15. A first trooper arrived 30 seconds later. Second trooper arrived, and they began looking for the occupant of the abandoned vehicle when the alarm sounded in the legislative building. For those of you who haven't been to the campus, it's huge. You don't know if somebody got into the building. You don't know if they're running around campus. You don't know what the story is. Suspect had 2 hammers, broken through a ground floor office window. Suspect proceeded upstairs, damaging small equipment like card readers and hand sanitizers as he went through the building. Eventually made his way to the rotunda and the 3rd floor, escalating damage, damaging statues and flags as he progressed. He then started a fire in the state reception room. Department of Enterprise Services will have more detail on the actual damage, which they sent out later. 3 troopers were on scene. They booked him, found him breaking out of the building through another window, booked on burglary of 2nd degree, arson of 2nd degree, malicious mischief of 1st degree. Now, they say no indication of political motivation, except this guy grabbed the American flag, the Washington state flag, lit them on fire on that carpet we talked about. Now, the Washington State Patrol says it's an individual in a mental health crisis, which goes back to one of my initial guesses, that that's who this person was, tipping over statues of George Washington, vandalizing the campus. Was this a person in a mental health crisis, or are they saying it was a person in a mental health crisis? Randomly grabbing the American flag and the Washington state flag to set them on fire in the middle of a room? Not political in nature? He attacked the Washington state capitol. Now, I have no reason to question the official statement, but it's a little confusing to me when Denny Heck says politically tinged violence. Okay, Maybe the lieutenant governor was saying, you know what? This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to say, okay, we're not going to stand for violence here in Washington. We're not going to do it. We're just not going to do it. Maybe that was an opportunity. And if so, kudos to Denny Heck for trying to do that and saying, you know what? We don't want this to be the speculation of violence of one side or the other. Let's just say kumbaya together. And it was a lunatic who just wanted to vandalize the building. If so, maybe. But the burning of the American flag and the Washington state flag, the toppling over of a bust, I have many, many questions. Until we have the suspect's identity, can mine their social media if it even exists. But here's something else. Let's say it was a mental health individual, a person who's having issues like that. Who defunded the mental health facilities like Western State Hospital? Oh, right. Because of Jay Inslee's incompetence, they were defunded. Because of Bob Ferguson's incompetence, they were defunded. Let's think about that for a second. Something else. You guys going to prosecute this person? Because you should prosecute people who vandalize people's homes and highways and streets and who burn whatever else it is whenever they're in downtown Seattle or anywhere else in Olympia for that matter. You're going to prosecute this guy but not prosecute other people? Or is this going to be one of these things where the person gets released because it was mental health challenges? You guys are a victim of the very thing you allow to happen to the citizens of this state. It's sad that it happened to the Capitol. It's a gorgeous building. If you haven't been to the Washington State Capitol, it is truly magnificent. Truly. Evil happens there, but it's a truly magnificent. I mean, I think it's one of the most, I've seen a lot of state capitals. It's one of the most beautiful ones outside of Washington, D.C. It really is magnificent. So I have a lot of questions about this, and I'm kind of curious if we're ever going to get the answers to it. Time to file a bunch of public disclosure requests and get some police reports. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Doug in Gig Harbor. Doug, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. Hey, yeah, I went to that Capitol, I think, on a school tour when I was young, and it's beautiful. And I'm sorry to hear that happen. My point is, I know they're looking at George Soros, but you know what? If it was possible to freeze those all of his little tentacle assets, I bet you Antifa would have a little problem with that, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly right.
I don't know if that's legal or not, but boy, I sure hope they do something about that. And we've known a long time, you know, the funding is what's is doing this. And I don't know. We got a great FBI now and everything, so I hope they catch him.
You know what's fascinating to me? Wait, let me just stop you there for a second to make a point. It's fascinating to me that the Hamas protests have kind of wound down since the ICE stuff started. Do you think they're just funding one cause at a time?
Man, I don't know. You're right about that.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's this big walkout plan for tomorrow by the Hamasniks for October 7th, but it seems like they've really taken the priority off that, and it's the same people who seem to be protesting for both causes.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. I'll let you finish your point, then I got to run.
Oh, just my other short thing is, yeah, it's very noticeable that these kind of things happen mostly in the blue states.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, why do you think that is? It's because they're the ones that allow it to happen, as I was talking about in the opening segment. They allow it to happen because of the funding. They allow it to happen because then they can get more funding. They can get more power. Speaking of authoritarianism from a little while ago. Doug, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Speaking of Democrat insanity, when we come back, my friends, Seattle Children's Hospital is apparently working with Seattle Public Schools to provide equipment to trans your kids in the schools. I'll tell you all about the latest insanity when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, Seattle's back in the news, and not for a good reason. This one went viral over the weekend because the Lives of TikTok saw this report from National Review. Seattle Public Schools launched a program earlier this year in collaboration with Seattle Children's Hospital to provide gender-affirming products to the schools. Now, I have to warn you, this is cringy. And I don't mean cringy like awkward. I mean it makes you actually want to cringe and kind of, no. Sorry, apologizing in advance. Products such as chest binders, trans tape, use your imagination, tucking underwear, and a few other things I'm not sure I could say on the radio, to middle and high school students to use at will. The supplies were provided by Seattle Children's Hospital, placed in lockers for students to access, beginning in March 2025 as part of the Seattle Public Schools Community Health Locker Project, according to emails obtained by the watchdog group Defending Education via a Freedom of Information Act and shared with National Review. You know how they used to say, oh, they put Joe Camel on the cigarettes so that kids would go, oh, cartoon character, I should start smoking. That's why they made the candy cigarettes so you could feel cool while smoking. That's why I had the candy cigars so you could feel cool while smoking. Think about all the other things they say. They do it in school so that you'll do it later. My wife, I were joking around. She was talking about how her school, when she was growing up, had free Microsoft products all the times. Why? Because Microsoft wanted to be the good guys, get the tax write-off, but also they wanted the data, and they wanted to see how kids use these products so they could develop them more and more and more, and so the kids would be PCs down the roads and not Macs. It worked. Why do you think Seattle Children's Hospital is giving all the trans stuff to Seattle Public Schools? Because they want the clients down the road. The SPS Health Education Office worked with the Garfield High School Teen Health Center to provide a safe, confidential place where students can receive medical care, nutritional services, and mental health care to stock the lockers. Seattle Public Schools and the Seattle Children's Hospital did not reply to National Review's request for comment. The initiative was briefly put on hold due to federal changes affecting LGBTQ plus communities, but was quickly resumed. While emails do not specify which federal changes caused the school to put the program on hold, President Donald Trump signed an executive order in January this year that bars federally funded schools from injecting left-wing dogma around sex and gender into K-12 curricula. In addition to trans tape and tucking underwear, both of which are used to conceal you-know-what, students were also given access to makeup kits, hair, nail remover, and sports bras. The student-led group Garfield Gay Straight Alliance provided guidance on which products should be put in the lockers and how often the lockers need to be restocked. That's a student-led group. You're listening to a bunch of teenagers on health-related items. Are you kidding me? Quote, we've definitely crossed the Rubicon where the concept of school supplies includes chest binders, tucking underwear, and trans tape, said Erica Stanzi, Senior Director of Communications at Defending Education. This is evidence of a district that has been captured by gender ideology and is complicit in harming other people's kids. A LinkedIn post from a self-declared Seattle Public Schools Community Health Locker advocate said the project was initiated via the SPS LGBTQ plus project program coordinator as a step toward expanding access to gender-affirming products for gender-diverse students. Why do they do this at school? It's not because you might need feminine hygiene products at school. You might need trans hygiene products at school. They do it so you can come to school and play dress-up so your parents won't know about it. That's why they do it at school. That's why they have something like this at school, so they can hide what you're doing from your parents. These health lockers throughout SPS middle and high schools include chest binders, condoms, and makeup for free, the Post read. This helped inform over 25,000 SPS students receiving a secondary level education, hopefully many more students to come. Before the locker program began, the LGBTQ plus support coordinator in the district's health education office sent an email to faculty and staff emphasizing the importance of taking special interest in LGBTQ plus students around the holidays, given their families might be non-accepting, and there it is. Why'd they set up this whole thing? Because they want to hide it from the parents. Quote, holiday season can be challenging for LGBTQ plus students, and we frequently see an uptick in mental health crises and suicidal ideation during this time. The person with the they-he, how does that work? How does the they-he thing work? never mind. I'm not even going to get into that right now. Queer and trans youth with non-accepting families or who depend on schools for basic necessities are most at risk. The director from Seattle Public Schools also included a list of coping strategies for the holidays for educators to pass along to LGBTQ+ students. The support coordinator also suggested that students reach out to the Trevor Project. Oh, the Trevor Project. Weren't they involved in the gender card that Seattle Children's was giving out to pediatricians all over the place? Hang on, do I have this thing around here somewhere? Yeah, I do. The one that says you want us to keep your gender secret from your parents? I think they may have been involved in that. I have to go double check that and see if they were. The Trevor Project bills itself as a resource for gender dysphoric adolescents and embraces an affirmation-only approach. Not, hey, let's get help for the fact that you want to change your gender, but we're just going to affirm everything that you say. And Seattle Public Schools did this willingly. Seattle Children's Hospital did this willingly. Any hospital that would do this to kids doesn't actually care about kids. They want to mutilate them. They don't want to save lives. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Mario in Kent. Mario, it's been too long. How you doing, buddy?
How you doing, buddy? Hey, I just want to let you know, regarding your question, do you think the mainstream media will become more balanced and fair? The answer from me is absolutely not. Okay, they're basically, they're going to go down fighting. It doesn't really matter if they continue losing money. They have used this approach right now for like years. I would say at least 15 to 20, maybe more years, and it hasn't worked for them in the least bit.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to mention to you, my friendo, is you know me. I was a legal citizen. Now I'm legal here, but I was a legal refugee that came in, or a legal immigrant that came in. My family, my parents, and I, and my sister and I waited 9 years to come patiently here. You know, we didn't skip the line or anything. So I honestly don't give a hoot, because I don't want to say any bad words, whether you're black, green, yellow, blue, pink, whatever color skin you want to call yourself. But if you come to this country illegally, you should be deported immediately. No more of this garbage. This is garbage. These protesters are out there saying they're the Constitution and all that. These guys don't know anything about the Constitution. They're more, like I told you before, communist.
Well,
you know?
I'll tell you something, Mario. While you were out of the country, we had a fascinating discussion, and I kept waiting for you to call, and I didn't realize you were out of the country. So while you were out of the country, we had a conversation where I came up with, it's not an amnesty plan. I came up with something that I said, okay, we have to recognize how many people are here illegally but have kept their nose clean. Maybe we should do this. And I came up with a whole plan where maybe you could be on a pathway to citizenship if you did this and you did that and you didn't take any handouts and you never were in trouble with the law. And the phone lines blew up. And it was all people like you, Mario, people who came to this country legally from wherever they came from, all saying it's not fair that I did everything right. And because people broke the law, you're coming up with compromises for them. And that really turned me around on that, by the way, because that was a really, really good point where all these people are saying, why do they get the free pass?
Yeah, no, I agree, Ari. I agree 100%. Nobody skipped the line back then, and you know that, and I know that, and everybody knows that. And I don't think that's right for the people who really waited for 9 years. And lastly, the one thing, hey, I wanted to say Happy Yom Kippur to you, but
thank you.
The last thing that I wanted to tell you, my friend, and you're a history buff too, is Israel needs to finish the job. I've seen it many times throughout history. Even empires didn't finish the job the first time.
Yep.
And they had to go back a second time. And I will mention to you, and I know, we can get into a debate whether you like him, love him, or hate him. But let me tell you who experienced that. One of the best emperors Rome ever had was Trajan. And Trajan had to do 2 campaigns in Dacia for the same exact reason,
Yeah, but also
look at
army of 100. Look at the Bible for a second. What's Amalek, right? Amalek,
the
commandment,
yeah.
right? You have to go after Amalek, and any time in Jewish history, in the Tanakh, in the prophets, and anytime they come back, They have to go in again because they didn't take care of it the first time, and
No,
that's exactly it.
You're right. I didn't get into Bibles. I just got into more of the secular world.
Sure.
But what I'm telling you is this guy had to write letters to all the provinces that says, hey, send me whatever volunteers you can and assemble a massive army of 100,000 people. And then they sign a peace treaty thinking this guy was going to honor it, and he sends everybody back home. And then the thing breaks out again, and he says, oh, shoot, now I got to summon the provinces again and all that. This time I can't afford. There isn't going to be any more peace treaty.
What's funny is,
ended it all.
Mario, you're getting a lot of love on the text line. Ernie says, since Mario did it right, I'm sure he knows more about the Constitution than the demonstrators. And John in Auburn says, amen, Mario. So I'm going to sign off with that for you today, Mario, and say, amen,
right,
Mario. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, a movie theater in downtown Seattle is the question of whether or not it was a profitable investment for the city of Seattle. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Coming up today at 5:15, we have an interview with Dave Rubin from the Rubin Report. I asked him on because I found out something fascinating. Ever since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, he decided to do the Charlie Kirk and start keeping Sabbath. We had a whole discussion about faith, the Middle East, had a whole discussion about Mamdani in New York, because both Dave and I are from New York. So make sure you're listening at 5:15 when we're joined by Dave Rubin from the Rubin Report, something you don't want to miss, especially my liberal friends who might remember him from the Young Turks. Now he came over to our side. So definitely something you don't want to miss. Yeah, another reason always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com. Download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. So I mentioned earlier in the show that I took the light rail yesterday, went down to Pioneer Square for an event, and as I was leaving, it was easier to get to the light rail station by the stadiums. Believe it or not, it was easier to go against the flood of people coming for the Seahawks game. And, Mike, you know what I saw when I was out there? I saw illegal food vendor after illegal food vendor after illegal food vendor. I thought to myself, young Zach from the morning show must be losing his mind. According to King 5, the Seattle Mariners are launching their playoff series at home this weekend. And with the Seahawks and Sounders also playing, more than 100,000 fans could crowd into the city's stadium district on Sunday. By the way, this is an older article. The math has it at about 200,000 people were down there. This means booming business for hot dog vendors, but not everyone is cashing in fairly, according to licensed sellers. Legal sidewalk vendors say they're losing money to a surge of unlicensed competitors operating near the stadiums. One licensed vendor told King 5's Matty White he occasionally sees health inspectors force unpermitted sellers to leave, but they often just move a block away and continue serving food. This sounds exactly like the homeless problem here in Seattle, right, Mike?
Well, I mean, the cart's got wheels. So.
Exactly. It can basically go wherever it wants. I have seen these operations. They are not very extensive. It's you grab one side of this table, I'll grab the other side of the table, and with the other hand, I will tow my cooler on the ground, and we will just move a block over. So, yeah, but then I got to ask you a question. I mean, I know some people want a quick diet, which is why they go to the unlicensed food vendors, but I wouldn't buy one anyway, because when I see the unlicensed food vendors, I worry what it's going to do to my stomach. Mike, are they worth the risk? I just kind of wonder, are they even worth the risk, or are they tastier than what you can actually get elsewhere? Because I have no experience.
Well, since I am friends with producer Zach from The Morning Ride, which you can listen to every weekday morning from 5 to 9 a.m. right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI, I have since forsooken the unlicensed hot dog vendors. But I will confess to the KVI Nation and the Big Mike Militia, I've sampled the forbidden meat. Last year, before my counterpart Zach decided to take on this crusade, and it was fine.
Okay,
it's fine. I didn't die. I mean, my scraped up leg would have. See, that's the thing. If I could survive a scraped up knee, I could survive a unlicensed hot dog in front of the Lumen Field after the. You know, there was so much Rodellos in my tummy that I think it would just killed off anything that was in there. Anyway, those cans were so big they should not sell you multiples of those. I blame Lumen Field, not myself. I am free of responsibility here, but no, the thing with those is the presentation always looks great. Like the hot dogs look like they're all bacon wrapped, and like all like the veggies look like they're fresh and delicious. And at the end of the day, it's fine.
It's fine. Okay, this is why I go to you guys. I need the expertise on this. Meanwhile, another crazy story out here: the Grant County Sheriff's Office in Washington is reporting that a toddler found a live grenade in the front yard of his family home on Monday night. Washington State Patrol Bomb Squad was called to the area of Willard Street in Heartline, Washington on Monday evening after a toddler entered his family home holding a live grenade. The Bomb Squad techs were able to determine that the grenade was live and the type used during the Second World War. There's a picture of the grenade, which was shared by the Grant County Sheriff's Office, shows that the grenade has been clearly exposed to the elements for quite some time. It's insane this thing did not blow up sooner, because that's a concern I have looking at this thing. Can you imagine your kid coming in? It was bad enough when one of my kids coming in with a dead animal in their hands, right? You ever had that happen before? But imagine the kid walking with a grenade. Look what I found in the front yard. Don't drop it. Don't touch it. Wait, don't drop it. Don't touch it. Holy cow. Thank God nobody was injured. That one's fascinating. Got to find out more about that story. When we come back, my friends, lots more to talk about. Is a new Fast and Furious movie actually going to get greenlit? And tell us about that movie theater that Seattle purchased downtown. Seems like it's performing well below expectations. We'll discuss that plus a whole lot more when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. There was an article in the Seattle Times about the Cinerama, which was recently purchased by the Seattle International Film Festival with a massive amount of money, millions of dollars, from the city of Seattle. And apparently its revenue is falling well below projections. Apparently people just don't want that chocolate-covered popcorn as much as they did. They want the nostalgia for the chocolate-covered popcorn and the amazing screen and sound and everything else, but it doesn't seem like they're actually going. They had to lay off a bunch of administrative staff. The projections fell 50% below of where they expected them to be. And now the question is, how are they going to continue to survive? A film festival every now and again in downtown Seattle isn't going to do it. Now, this is something I criticized at the time because I said, why do you think this is going to do anything? There was an election coming up, and they said, oh, let's save the Cinerama, and people will thank us for it. There were other things you could have done with the property while keeping the Cinerama. Could have rebuilt it. There were things you could have done. 50% below, this is like what we saw with Jimmy Kimmel, where all these people who said, hey, we want to save this thing, don't actually watch it or don't actually go.
Yeah, they should tear Jimmy Kimmel down and build condos.
That's what they should do instead. Yeah, tear that whole studio right there in Manhattan down to the ground and build condos instead. Now, something else that's having financial problems is apparently the new Fast and Furious sequel. It's number 11. There's article in the Wall Street Journal going through the finances, which Mike found over the weekend. He said to me, I was reading this thing, fascinating. Now, you've got a problem. This franchise has been going on since I was 20 years old, and I'm now 44. Let's do that for a minute. So this franchise has been going on for a long, long time. I would argue that since number 7, it's kind of been not that great. 8 was okay. 9 was not great. 10 had its moments, and I don't even know what to expect from 11, but everybody wants to know, the Fast and Furious fans, if you're going to wrap this thing up with a bow. Just the salaries alone are so expensive that Universal is concerned about whether or not it can recoup its costs. You've got big names in this thing. Aside from Vin Diesel, who was a nobody when you made the first one, now you've got Michelle Rodriguez. You're talking about bringing Paul Walker back from the dead digitally, which that's a whole nother story there. You've got The Rock. You've got Jason Statham. You've got Jason you've got Balboa.
Him too.
Him too. You've got all these guys in this thing. The salaries alone, and they look at how other blockbuster tentpole franchise movies are doing. And the new Superman movie scared a lot of people because it didn't break $1 billion. So they're wondering if they're even going to do this. Now, Vin Diesel seems to be enjoying tweeting, hey, we're going to have an update soon. Hey, we're going to have an update soon. And then we're going to have another update soon. And I promise there's going to be an update soon. Is he just trying to will this movie into existence? So just the other day, and I'm getting this from bleedingcool.com, after a few years of ambiguity, fans are still waiting for official confirmation about the next entry in the Fast and Furious saga. However, star Vin Diesel just dropped a new hint about where things currently stand. And for what he's saying, it appears that the future is looking bright for the franchise. Wait a minute. Wall Street Journal just said it's not looking bright for the franchise, that the math may not be penciling out. Diesel's update arrived on Instagram alongside a photo with co-star Michelle Rodriguez, his ride or die since the 2001 film, and wrote, just wrapped an incredible day filming with my ride or die co-star about the future of Fast. After listening to her, something became crystal clear. She will always be a Letty. The lengthy message ends on a promise to honor what fans love while taking the story somewhere new, which sure sounds like forward motion for another forward chapter. He also addressed Rodriguez's value to the series while nodding to years of changing studio regimes and even the constant connection between the Fast family, crediting Rodriguez as a vital component of that bond. Now, question is, when is this thing going to come out? Is this thing even being made? Is it going to come out? Mike, you look like you have thoughts. Your brow is furrowed.
I have so many thoughts. First of all, this dude is pretending that he's making a movie. They're not making a movie.
So that was my first thing.
He literally says, we're filming. They're not filming.
Right.
There's no approved script. There's no director. None of the cast has signed up to return. This isn't a movie that's being made. And if they don't make the proper adjustments to the budget, it's not a movie that's ever going to be made.
Right. Because the Wall Street Journal was basically saying, if you want to make this movie, we got to cut tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars out of this movie. They're talking about digital effects. I mean, look, the digital effects haven't looked that great in the Fast and Furious franchise since about 5, I would say. 6, you could see some of the problems, but I'll give you 6. I'll even give you a 7 with the Paul Walker. 8, 9, and 10 in space and stuff, ridiculous looking. So here, he's talking about filming, and there's no filming going on. What, you guys filmed an Instagram video? You just posted a picture of the thing. It seems to me like Vin Diesel is trying to will this franchise into continuing, where the studio is saying, you have to cut money out of this franchise or we can't make one. Does that mean cutting stars? My guess is actually the reason he's mentioning Rodriguez is they're saying, who's going to go from the franchise? And the salaries are one of the most expensive items of the franchise. Are we going to get a satisfying end? The beginning of the road ends or the end of the road begins or something like that? I'm not sure we're even actually going to get that.
I hope this is it, and that things just end on unresolved, promises made, promises not kept. Maybe that lady will be out of the submarine. Maybe The Rock will come back. None of it will happen. And that, I think, would be a fitting end for this lackluster film franchise, for it to end on not just a cliffhanger, but an entire series of unresolved cliffhangers, not unlike that Super Mario Brothers movie. It's a real, you're not going to believe this situation.
Yeah, I completely
If you don't know what that is, ask your parents.
I completely agree with you. When we come back, my friends, speaking of promises made, promises not kept, looks like Hamas is always trying to renege on their deal with Israel and President Trump. We'll tell you what the president said when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Dave Rubin from the Rubin Report stops by to discuss his increase in faith after Charlie Kirk's assassination. But before we get to any of that, this weekend in Tumwater, Let's Go Washington had a big signature event. What's going on? People are attacking signature gatherers all over Washington state. So Let's Go Washington had an event in Tumwater, interestingly enough, outside the school, the elementary school, where they put on that drag Rocky Horror performance. So they have the event there, and what happens, of course, Antifa, Hamasniks, the usual gang of lefty lunatics shows up to harass them. Do these guys not get that they're not getting their message out there? In fact, the opposite is happening. They're pushing the message of the signature gatherers and Let's Go Washington. Because anytime these lunatics show up, the videos go viral and more people go, hey, where do I sign those pieces of paper? Where can I find the signature gatherers? So what are the petitions about? What are the initiatives about? There are two. We've discussed it many times before that Let's Go Washington is pushing. One is to keep men out of women's sports, keep boys out of girls' sports. And the other one is so that parents can have the right to see what their kid is learning in school. I know, really, really spicy stuff. So you have the usual gang of lunatics show up and try to shut this thing down. In the process, you've got mega viral videos over the weekend of girls who were discriminated against in sports because boys took competition trophies away from them, took scholarships away from them, giving speeches, and they're being surrounded by people who are protecting them from the lunatics. I gotta say, lunatics are doing a great job of getting the message out there. They really, really are. In fact, things have gotten so bad for these signature gatherers who are getting attacked that even the Washington State Secretary of State, Steve Hobbs, weighed in on it over the weekend.
Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Hobbs, your Secretary of State. I'm disheartened at the recent reports of harassment and interference towards petitioner gathering signatures. I condemn any and all actions that disenfranchise and inhibit eligible voters from participating in the democratic process. This type of activity must stop. Every Washingtonian has the right to participate and make their voice heard without intimidation or interference. Access to all aspects of our democracy is a core tenet of American governance and a guiding principle of my office. I stand by this principle and consider anything to the contrary as voter suppression. Hostile and violent actions have no place in the democratic process, in politics, and in our communities. These instances reiterate the necessity to protect all voters' constitutionally guaranteed rights. Our state experienced similar behavior in 2023 when I received reports of signature gatherers being disrupted in their efforts to collect signatures for 6 initiatives. In an effort to strengthen protections for citizens engaged in the initiative process, I supported a bill by former State Rep Greg Cheney that prohibited certain activities within 25 feet of signature collection efforts. Unfortunately, the bill did not pass, but offered promise of bipartisan support in making the democratic process accessible to all participants. Under Washington law, it is a gross misdemeanor to interfere with the right of any voter to sign or not to sign an initiative or referendum petition. My office's role in administering elections does not include the authority to conduct investigations or initiate criminal proceedings. Anyone experiencing interference should reach out to their local law enforcement for assistance.
They should reach out to their local law enforcement, huh? One little teeny tiny problem. What if local law enforcement doesn't believe in enforcing the law? Brandy Cruz got a hold of body cam footage, which she played on the Undivided podcast, of police officers in Covington who were called because a Walmart employee had stolen and destroyed a whole bunch of these initiative pages. It was one of the Walmart employees identified by the signature gatherers themselves. And here's what happened when the cops showed up.
This is what I recovered. I was right here. I had my canopy up, and the guy was like, "Hey, man, look what you got going on here. Can I sign the petition?" And I handed him the deck, and he just took off.
You wouldn't have to grab someone's sign and ripped it up.
We just came back from lunch.
Yeah. Did you?
I just came back from lunch.
Okay. Well, you're being detained right now until I figure out, because you match the description.
Yep, that's you.
Okay. So, cool. Skylar, right now you're under arrest. I think what we'll do is we'll kind of put on a show. All right. So I don't think we're actually going to take you to the jail.
Whoa. What did that guy just say? What did that police officer just say? We're going to put on a show, and not actually take you to the police station?
We'll kind of put on a show. All right. So I don't think we're actually going to take you to the jail.
So everything's recorded. Okay, what happened? He was out front being pretty inflammatory. Okay. I just didn't like that.
I think this is more for the petition here.
And this is more for the petitioner here? So you're putting on a show and not actually enforcing the law? Whether it's a felony, whether it's a misdemeanor, it doesn't matter. The guy still broke the law. So you have cops on body camera footage admitting that they are not going to do anything about this in Covington. Wonder if Walmart's going to keep this employee. The cops are literally admitting they're not going to do anything about it. So what you're saying is the signature gatherers are on their own in Covington. How many other places is this happening? How many other places have they gotten orders from above that, make a show of it so it looks good and we don't end up on Ari Hoffman's show or Brandy Cruz's show or anybody else's show, but don't do anything about it. Would you be surprised if the Seattle Police Department was given an order like this? Of course not. Would you be surprised if the police in Tacoma or Olympia or anywhere else were given an order like this? Of course not. This cop is literally on tape admitting that he is just putting on a show. Now, if he had said, well, it's a misdemeanor, so I'm going to write you a citation and you need to show up in court, fine. Okay. We wouldn't have felt there was as much satisfaction, but that's the law. Instead, we're going to put on a show because the signature gatherers standing right over there. This is disgraceful. This is absolutely disgraceful. Question is, where's Nick Brown? Where's the Attorney General? Haven't heard him weigh in on this. Steve Hobbs at the end of that. Steve Hobbs was talking about how he has worked in bipartisan fashion to try and pass bills protecting people. Who shot it down? The Democrats. The Democrats didn't want that bill going forward. Where's Nick Brown? Where's Bob Ferguson? Where's any of them? I will argue that this kind of nonsense is going to make Let's Go Washington get more signatures than last time. Now, if you haven't been able to sign these initiatives yet, there's an easy solution to this. All you have to do is go on Let's Go Washington's website. Just go to Let's Go Washington's website and request an initiative be sent to your house. And then just fill it out and mail it back. You don't have to deal with any of the shenanigans out in public if you don't want to. It'll be sent to your house. You can mail it right back. They will take care of everything through their website. But it's crazy to me that every activist in the world is showing up to protest this thing. Why? What are they so upset by? They're so upset that they're keeping girls' sports for only girls. They're so upset that parents get to know what's going on with their kids. Oh, right, because then you can't train a new brand of activists. These lunatics are making these initiatives more popular. So on one hand, I'm really mad and I'm worried about the safety of the signature gatherers. On the other hand, they're probably going to guarantee that more people sign these things than before. And now it's making national headlines. And people like Scott Pressler have already said they're coming to Washington next time. What happens when the feds have to come in and enforce the law because cities like Covington won't? Now you get into an interesting discussion. Do you want the feds coming in because the city of Covington won't do its job or any other city won't do its job? What recourse do the voters have? Here, you're talking about somebody violating state law, and you have the police who are tasked with responding not doing their jobs. Was it because that's what they were ordered to do? Or because they agree with these guys? Either way, it's not good. Question is, what are you going to do about it? You're mad right now. You're going to contact the Attorney General's office, call them up, email them, and say, what are you guys going to do about this? You're going to contact the Covington Police Department and go, hey, what the hell? You're going to contact Bob Ferguson, right? Not in state. Not in state. So here is where you get to a point where people feel like they are left alone, where people feel like they are abandoned. And now you get to understand people in Portland who say, of course we want the feds in here. Anytime I do a poll saying, do you want the feds coming to Seattle to enforce the law? You say yes. Now you have an issue in Covington where you have police officers on body camera, knowing they're on body camera footage, admitting they're not going to enforce the law. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. The left gets mad when you do enforce the law, by the way. How dare you crack down on peaceful rioters? How dare you do that? The left is the party of violence. The left is the party of not following the law in any way, shape, or form, of undermining democracy. This is literally democracy in action. You're triggered by something they're collecting petitions for? Oh, boo-hoo. You know what? There are plenty of times I see lefties collecting signatures for stuff. They come to my house all the time. I like to argue with them. It's fun to argue with them. I just get a big smile on my face when they show up. They haven't been coming by as much anymore. It's kind of sad to me. That was some of my joy in life. I like when they used to come to my house. But you could have a discussion with them. You could have a political disagreement with them. That's perfectly fine. You can engage with them over the issues. But the fact that you're destroying these things shows you know you can't win on its merits. It shows you guys can't win because you can't justify why boys should be allowed to take scholarship away from girls, why boys should be allowed to compete against a ton of girls who are just doing it for the credit and now have to worry about getting injured by a guy 3 times their size who wants to do better at basketball or volleyball or any other sport for that matter because he couldn't cut it in boys' sports. It's ridiculous how insane this has gotten, and these protesters know it. These violent activists, they know they can't win in a world of ideas or a war of ideas. So what do? Instead, they go to actual war. That's what they're doing because they know they can't actually win this argument, and they're on the wrong side of an 80-20 issue. So what do? Try to silence the opposition. Try to shut down the opposition. Who's authoritarian now? Who are the ones who are in the mood for censorship now? Who are the ones who are in the mood for violence now? Absolutely crazy, crazy stuff. When we come back, my friends, Dave Rubin from the Rubin Report will be joining us to discuss what's going on in the Middle East, to discuss what's going on with Mamdani, but also discuss why he decided to get a little bit more observant in his faith after Charlie Kirk's assassination. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.